Blender dropped its new 5.1 update, Photoshop can now rotate 2D objects in 3D space, and CorridorKey's open source keying tool already has an After Effects plugin. It's Motion Mondays. Let's go ahead and turn on DLSS 5. Oh yeah, I'm liking this. So to kick things off, we have two After Effects plugins that dropped this week, and both are free, so let's run through them. First up, CorridorKey. We reported just last week that the Corridor crew built and open sourced their own AI keying plugin based off their own trading data. And already someone has wrapped it into a proper plugin for After Effects Premiere, DaVinci Resolve, and Nuke. It's completely free and you can find it over at A Scripts plus A Plugins, so no excuses not to try it. And second, Battle Axe just dropped a quality of life update to Overlord, everyone's favorite bridge between Adobe apps. They resurrected their old discontinued plugin called Timelord and folded it directly into Overlord. So Timelord lets you export Photoshop timeline frame sequences as editable PNG layers directly into an After Effects composition, and this update does that all at 8 times the original speed. So if you're doing any type of frame by frame work in Photoshop, you're definitely going to want to grab this to bring everything into After Effects with a click of a button. Time for a quick School Motion News Roundup. Our NAB MoGraph meetup is happening April 19th in Las Vegas at Tom's Watch Bar. Tickets are free over at mographmeetup.com, and the beers are on us and our sponsors, including our co-host Rive. So come hang out with me and other motion designers, talk about your favorite After Effects expressions, and really just vibe out with other designers and the people you've probably been following online for years. You know, last year I actually met this nice kid. I think his name was Andrew Cromer. I think he was a pilot or something. And we've got a community portfolio review coming up March 26th at 2 p.m. Eastern. It's where our members get honest feedback from people who actually do this for a living. And our community online always runs 24/7, and the critique culture there is actually pretty legit. So if you've been sitting on your work and you want some honest eyes on it, come join us and get it critiqued. Maxon's Redshift 2026.4 is out with a few things worth noting. There's a new dedicated ArchViz version of Redshift, a procedural night sky for the sun and sky system, and a really nice quality of life fix for the Cinema 4D dome light baking, which now accepts procedural textures, which previously required the old Redshift Espresso node setup to actually pull off. But the main headline here is Redshift Live, a brand new real-time render engine that replaces Redshift RT. And for me personally, I've never really seen Redshift RT talked about as a production-ready kind of thing, so I'm cautiously optimistic here. Redshift Live uses a lot of the same underlying tech as Redshift RT, but is positioned more towards LookDev and ArchViz. Now the catch is the initial limitations list is actually longer than that of RT's was, so you got no subsurface scattering, no hair, no volumes, no motion blur, no depth of field. Clearly early days, but Maxon isn't giving up on real-time rendering, and we'll see if Live can actually get to the place that RT never quite really made it to. So sticking with the real-time rendering conversation, Otoy just dropped the first public alpha of OctaneRender 2027.1. Now the big new thing is neural rendering mode that's promising near noise-free interactive rendering in the viewport using Octane's spectral path tracing with AI on top. Very low sample counts even in complex lighting, meaning faster, cleaner viewport previews without waiting on a full render. They also updated AI Light 2.0, which uses AI to optimize sampling in scenes with multiple light sources, which cuts down on noise and render times right where things tend to get a little expensive. So you can see in the examples how much cleaner the new upgrade looks. And since it's available as an alpha alongside the stable 2026 releases, you don't have to blow up your current production setup to try it. Now, a few cool work pieces this week. First up, anytime Sekani Solomon comes out with anything, it's basically an insta-share here in this space, and his latest for Cash App in the Racing Bulls 2026 F1 season is just killer. The match cuts, the transitions, the way he integrates the F1 car with the Cash App's visual branding, got incredible lighting, amazing composition, great editing chops. I'm sure he had a lot of fun messing with those Formula 1 cars. Go check it out on his LinkedIn. And next up, our Figma instructor, Bekki Leahy, just dropped a new reel, and the illustration style and color sense is really great. Lovely work. She works a lot in Figma, and she's also hard at work on a Figma course for us here at School of Motion, so stay tuned for that one. And then there's this piece from Cub Studio. They started with a fully hand-animated 2D piece built inside After Effects, and then exported simplified animation passes and used them as references for AI style transfer, generating claymation textured replacements that follow the original motion and timing exactly. So AI used almost like a claymation filter on top of the animation work. Now there's a little jitter and it's definitely not true claymation, but it begs the question, do you feel better about AI being used as a stylization filter on top of hand animated work? Think about like Sketch and Tune on top of your 3D, because I'm seeing a lot of artists go there. So drop a comment, generally want to know where you all land on this. So story time. Back very long time ago when I was just starting out as a freelancer, a client literally asked me one time if I could rotate the head of someone in a photo, and I was like, no, this is a photo, that's not how this works. Joke's on me though, because the Photoshop beta just dropped Rotate Object, which does exactly that. You select any object, hit Rotate Object, and Photoshop converts it into essentially what is a rotatable 3D image that you can spin to match the perspective of any background you're compositing into. It was actually teased at the last Adobe Max. Now seeing it in full action, the results are actually pretty impressive. And once you combine it with Harmonize, you've actually got a pretty solid concepting pipeline for product photography. Now, what would be great is if eventually it just generates a full 3D object that you can then go and drop into After Effects or do whatever you want with it versus just a still. It does eat generative credits, so 20 per use, so be intentional with all your spinning you do. Now, sticking with Adobe, Firefly Custom Models just hit public beta, and this is one that I actually find interesting because it actually addresses one of the core problems with AI, at least in my eyes, which is control and feeling connected to your own work. You can now train a custom model on your own art now, and there's 3 model styles that you can choose from. You got photography, illustration, or character. And how it works is you drop in 10 to 30 pieces and it trains specifically on your style. So instead of generating the average of everything on the internet, you can riff off your own work and create your own custom slop. Or at least a little more specifically yours, at least. Now, I think this is actually how studios and artists are going to start harnessing AI in a real way, and I think a lot of artists and studios have already been doing this. The thing I keep wondering about, though, is with this Adobe custom model is the legal and privacy side. This isn't local training like Comfy UI where everything stays self-contained on your own machine. Adobe can presumably see what you're uploading, so working with sensitive client assets, maybe think twice. But for building on your own personal body of work, it's probably worth checking out. But what do you think? Leave a comment. Really be interested to see what you feel about training your own model on Adobe. Blender 5.1 is out, and one of the headliners is the new Raycast node in Eevee, which opens up some really solid NPR stylization options. You got shadow stylization, outline effects, or if you're a big Jello render fan. But it's really good for anyone doing kind of Illustrator versus stylized 3D work. Beyond that, it's a performance and polish cycle mostly. Animation playback is significantly faster. Shape key and action performance is way up across the board. And the graph editor has a new smooth modifier for cleaning up noise and details in your F-curves. Materials also compile faster. There are snapping updates, sculpting improvements, a new blur brush, better color sampling, and grease pencil shapes now support holes. So SVG and PDF imports come in much cleaner, especially those donut SVGs. Now there's a lot in there, so full list is on the Blender site. Link for that will be in the description. Now on to our student of the week, who is Sankarasanjeevi from India, a freelance video editor who just worked his way through design Kickstart. Now his quote stuck with me: knowing the tools can make you good, but knowing the concepts, basics, and principles makes you great. That's like Confucius level stuff right there. So he came in close to all access as a beginner, and in 3 months worked through Photoshop and Illustrator Unleashed, Design Kickstart, After Effects Kickstart, and Animation Bootcamp. So you can really see the whole all-access journey here. You learn your design fundamentals, you learn to animate those designs in After Effects, learn the principles behind why great animation feels the way it does. That's exactly the journey we want to take people on, so awesome work there. You can check out more of his stuff on LinkedIn, link's gonna be in the description. Now on to some feel-good news. A lot of people in the industry are hurting right now, and the good folks at JangaFX are trying to do something about it. They've just announced a layoff assistant program. If you've been laid off from a job in films or games, you can apply for up to 6 months of free access to JangaFX tools while you get yourself back on your feet. To apply, you just create a JangaFX account, fill out the application on their website, and if you're cleared, they'll send you a license key. The VFX industry specifically has had a brutal stretch of closures and layoffs, and this gives affected artists real time to rebuild their portfolio. So if you know anyone in that situation in games and VFX or anything adjacent, please share this with them. Unless you've been living under a rock this week, you've seen the NVIDIA gaming news. Game artists are now having the exact same AI conversation that we've been having in motion design for the past 2 years, and the catalyst is DLSS 5. So explaining it to you like you're 5, it takes video game graphics and makes them more photoreal by having the GPU generate a significant portion of the final image through neural inference rather than actually rendering it. AI fills in the pixels that were never there. And when you layer that photorealism on top of janky, imperfect game character movement, the results look really creepy. The backlash came fast, of course. A lot of the memes that came from it are actually pretty good though. But NVIDIA's response was that the DLSS 5 was built in collaboration with developers who maintain creative control, which again is the exact same lines we've been hearing in our world. Now, it's interesting watching an entire industry go through this for the first time, kind of, and we might actually have a little bit of a head start on how to think about all this. And that is a wrap. You'll find links to everything we talked about in the description. Make sure you grab your tickets to the NAB MoGraph meetup. I'm going to be super excited to see everyone there, especially you, Andrew Cromer. I think that was your name. Now go out and have an awesome week, one you make better without even needing DLSS 5 turned on. See you next time.